All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Mat. A little bit of extra here on a Sunday. Had a little bit of news break over the weekend about Becky Lynch, possible return of Asuka also this Monday. A lot of spoilers about next week's Smackdown, seeing that they taped two episodes on Friday due to the fact that they're going to be in Europe pretty soon, so they're not going to have the roster at their disposal. Now, let's keep in mind that they did have to film two episodes there in one sitting, so a lot of the same producers were working on the same stuff with the same superstars, so that's why we see a lot of overlapping and repetitive things with the same people week after week. People that were just in vignettes on Friday, most likely in matches next week. The card for next week includes Intercontinental Championship match between Ricochet and Shanky, as well as a happy talk with Madcap Moss, which is likely going to set up a match between Corbin and Moss for Backlash. Raquel Rodriguez is going to get some in-ring action finally in a squash match, so that's nice. Also going to have the tag unification contract signing, which I have a spoiler for. I'll get to that in a minute. Naomi is going to take on Shayna Baszler. That ahead of their Backlash match for the women's tag titles. I did see the tag title match last night at the house show. Obviously, the champions retained. They did a lot of really nice stuff. They showed that they could put on a good match. At these house shows, they're given basically unlimited time to work with. So they're out there working on every single spot that they possibly can. And they really did a good job. There's a lot of things that they can do to make this work well. And I think all four ladies involved in this work at a high level and get things done very well in the ring. Not a lot of sloppiness. So obviously the match at Backlash isn't going to be a house show match because they're going to have a limited amount of time. But given the spots they have to work with, they can turn that into a good looking match. Baszler and Natalia are both technical pros. So I think this is a good matchup. I still see the baby faces going over in the end, but who the hell knows what they're going to do with the women's tag picture after that. There really isn't anybody who's stepped up at all. There's not even a tag team that I know of made of women yet. I can't see any of the returning women that we know of forming a tag team. So whoever the next contenders are going to kind of have to come out of nowhere. Hopefully it's two formidable women can step up and become the next contenders for the tag team championships for the women. Otherwise, the division is basically useless. Now, speaking of matches next week on SmackDown, we're going to see some combination of Holland and Sheamus versus the members of the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Last night at the house show, Kofi took on Sheamus. Really good match. They went about 25 minutes. Sheamus got all his shit in. Kofi did all kinds of shit. It actually was a better Kofi Kingston match than I've seen in a long time. He still did some ridiculous antics that made it kind of distasteful to me, but the work was well done. He ended up going over, but great showing by Sheamus. Ridge Holland was funny, ringside, messing with the fans, messing with his hat, hitting people with his hat, messing with people's signs. It's always fun at house shows to see what the guys do when they're off camera, to interact with the crowd. That's one of the great things about house shows, that they don't have the time limit, they don't have the camera to worry about, and they can really show off and work on things. And a lot of guys that you don't normally expect to do anything, you see them on the card at the house show, you think, what the hell? And then they go out there to have a hell of a match, and that's what happened last night when Mansoor took on Gunther. Now, at first, LA Knight came out, and I thought, what the hell is LA Knight doing here? And he introduced Mansoor as his next modeling client, or whatever the hell he's doing, whatever his gimmick is. So LA Knight's ringside for Mansoor and Gunther. This match went 11 minutes. It wasn't your typical 1 minute Gunther squash match where he just power slams and power bomb and stack pins somebody. He made Mansoor look like a star. Mansoor's out there, and he's got the entire crowd chanting USA, USA over and over again because Ludwig did such a great job of putting over Walter as an evil villain from Germany. The match was great, though. Walter ended up going over with his powerbomb stack pin combo, but Mansoor did a lot of offense. It really showed what Walter's capable of. And again, without the limitation of TV time, what Mansoor's capable of and what anybody's capable of if they just had the time to do it. And that's one of the things that is really a drag about SmackDown and Raw, that they have so many commercials, so many packages that take away from the time that the talent is given to show what they can actually do. One of the ways that I know that certain guys are way better than what they are pushed as is how I see them perform at house shows. And that's why sometimes I get confused and get annoyed that I don't see guys that are really doing a great job out there get pushed. But anyway, we saw another match that's going to be next week. It was Charlotte Flair versus Aaliyah. It's going to be a stupid beat the clock gimmick next week for Charlotte and Aaliyah, and also Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi. The idea is who can get their opponent to tap out or say I quit quicker. It's really fucking stupid. I don't understand the point of it, what it really accomplishes, but the main point of it is to take up TV time, get Shotzi on TV, who we haven't seen in forever, get Aaliyah on TV, who we haven't seen in forever. And to be honest with you guys, after what I saw last night, I understand why Aaliyah doesn't get any TV time. As great as she looks and as pretty as she looks and as nice as her gear is, she was out there. Her selling was awful. Charlotte made her look decent in this match, but Aaliyah's there trying to look tough and beat Charlotte up, and she's smiling ear to ear while she's punching somebody just after taking a boot to the face. Who the hell smiles when they're hitting somebody in the face? You're supposed to look angry. Then at one point she had Charlotte down. She did the Ric Flair strut around the ring, got booed out the building. That was one of several sacrilegious things she did during the match. The only thing she did that looked good was a flat back bump she took after a boot to the face by Charlotte. Her only real offense was a series of roll-up. She did do a Hurricane Rana type takeover, but nothing real impressive. The fans were not into her at all. They were way more into Charlotte. Charlotte ended up putting her in the figure eight. She tapped out immediately. She didn't even sell that well. So, again, Aaliyah at the house show didn't work too well. And this is the place where people don't have the pressure of the television camera. They don't have the pressure of the script. They don't have the pressure of the time necessarily. They just go out there, put on the best show they can. And in this situation, Aaliyah failed miserably and definitely proved to me why she hasn't been seen on TV very much ever since that short program she had with Natalya earlier on. So next week we'll see the IC title match with Shanky and Ricochet. Ricochet is going to retain his title there, obviously. Just another match for Ricochet to defend the IC title and make it seem relevant. Nice to see him get better opponents than Shanky, but if that's all they got, that's fine. At least it gives Shanky something to do and puts him up in a better spot than lacking around with Jinder Mahal and doing whatever it is he does every Friday. But last night, I saw Ricochet take on Jinder for the Intercontinental title to open up the show. Match went 30 minutes. Ricochet finished it with the shooting star press. That is the finisher he's going with now. He's replaced the 630 with the shooting star press. Something he's doing because he has some nerve issues in his neck, upper back area. Easier for him to hit the shooting star than the 630 with this. The last time he did hit the 630 was when he faced Zayn for the IC title. He stopped using it the following week when he retained the title against Zayn. Since then, he's used the shooting star press anytime he's finished a match from the top rope. So, really good match. Jinder Mahal actually looked like a star in this match. Ricochet hit all of his spots. Many near falls. The crowd was really into this. Ricochet's really putting on a good show. I like seeing him in a premier position. He just needs to get opponents that boost his credibility more. Otherwise, the IC title, along with him himself, is just going to seem like it's there and it isn't very significant. So they need to continue to build people and get Ricochet opponents with the IC title and elevate that belt because it's prestigious and it matters. And some of the best wrestlers ever have held that title at some time. And there's been historic reigns with it, and the reigns recently have not been. Now, speaking of reigns, during the tag team unification contract signing on Smackdown, there is a development that occurs. If you don't want to hear the spoiler, don't listen to this. But Drew McIntyre is going to crash the contract signing, fight Roman Reigns, and challenge him to a match at Backlash, which is what we're going to get in the main event at Backlash. And I'm fine with that. I saw it in the main event last night at the live event. Been seeing McIntyre and Reigns in almost every dark match, almost every house show main event since the draft happened. So I know that they can work together. They put on a good show. They went 33 minutes last night. The finish was when McIntyre went for a Claymore kick, ran right into a spear, and then got pinned. There was a guillotine spot. There was all kinds of ringside spots. McIntyre did hit the Claymore, got hit by a couple Superman punches. Reigns was great with his heel antics with the crowd, messing with little kid signs. He took somebody's sign at once and pretended like he was going to autograph it and threw it back. He did give his shirt to a kid at ringside who the Usos also gave their hats to. It was really good showing by the both of them. Drew actually looks like he's more physically imposing in that ring when he stands next to Roman than Roman does. He looks like a formidable opponent. He was German suplexing Roman all over the place last night, and he was doing it with ease. The shame of it is that they positioned Drew McIntyre like a goofball, having him work with Sami Zayn, a guy who can't even defeat Johnny Knoxville and won't even stay in the damn ring for a match. It's ridiculous. And before that, they had Corbin against Drew McIntyre. So McIntyre has not been heated up properly. They try to stick him in the microwave with Sami Zayn, who's a formidable opponent and can certainly sell that he's scared of somebody like McIntyre. But McIntyre needs to be kicking somebody's ass and then going to Reigns to make more sense in storyline. But this sure beats the Nakamura bullshit that we were all unsure about. And at the end of the day, McIntyre is a good opponent for Reigns. Like I said, it looks like McIntyre is a stronger and better wrestler when they stand next to each other in the ring. McIntyre was getting the better of Reigns most of the night last night until the end of it when Reigns finally hooked up and took it over. I think McIntyre's safe. I think he's strong. He's a fan favorite. The funny thing is everybody wants to see Roman Reigns. We're supposed to have a heel, supposed to have a baby face. And at this show last night, nobody gave a damn about Drew McIntyre. Everybody wanted to see Roman Reigns. Everybody knew that it was the main event. When McIntyre's music hit, everybody was just like, okay, it's Drew McIntyre. Hurry up and get the hell out of here. Where's your sword? Make sure you have that. Come out here, get in the ring so we can see Roman. And then when Roman's music hit, the place came unglued. And when he appeared after his music was going on for about 45 seconds, it was ridiculous. I haven't heard a bigger pop at a house show just for somebody's entrance in a really long time. So they were really into Roman here, and it was just a really good showing. And I think that one of the things they might run into at Backlash is that we all know that Drew's not going to defeat Roman for whatever title he ends up challenging for. And so then you're going to get a divided crowd that's not really going to get behind the babyface here because he's not heated up in babyface fashion. There hasn't been much build to this. I don't know what they're going to do over the next couple of Smackdowns to get some heat on Roman to get people behind Drew. Obviously, the UK pay-per-view is one where people are going to naturally be well behind the native performer in Drew McIntyre in that situation. So for that UK pay-per-view, it totally makes sense. I hope that still is something that works out for Drew McIntyre. Somehow they're going to have to rehash this or end this in a way where McIntyre actually has a reason to want to have a shot at the title in September because it's so close to that it almost doesn't make sense for them to run it back so soon. But moving on, overall, house shows are great. If you haven't been to one, you should go just because it's not something that has the glitz and the glamour of the TV tapings Raw and SmackDown have. It's still a really good experience. You get a lot more out of it. You get to see people you don't normally get to see, and the matches are 10 times better. You don't have to try to listen to TV backstage segments that aren't even barely audible for the people who are in attendance. And it's just a great experience to have. You even get a 10-minute intermission to go take a piss where you know you're not going to miss anything. And the matches, even if they're people that you're not interested in, are 10 times better than what you would expect. So Bret Hart, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be, continued to be paid by WWE not to wrestle, signed a lucrative long-term deal sort of secretly with the WWE. We all know he manages the FTR tag team, who formerly were in the WWE, now in AEW. He manages them on the independent scene, not in AEW, and that is the reason why WWE did this. They signed him to keep him away from being able to be on AEW TV. A lot of people might have an issue with this. I think it's smart business by WWE to do this. I don't know what other thing they would have planned for Bret Hart down the road. Probably nothing. But the whole point of this is it's nice to see that there's some competition between two brands here. AEW is doing well with their stuff. WWE feels the need to do this. And I think it's always healthy to have competition within businesses. It makes those two products want to push themselves to be better. So hopefully this is a sign of ways that WWE is going to try to improve. AEW is going to try to improve on their end. Now, one of the things we did see over the weekend is that WWE's possibly flirting with the idea of a ranking system after a fan survey revealed that WWE fans would prefer a ranking system similar to how AEW has their wrestlers ranked. Now, I'm not against some kind of system that actually makes wins and losses on TV matter, but I think if they're going to do this, that they have to do it in a way that they get the booking right, they get everybody the turn that they need, that everybody gets the right action, and that it all makes sense. WWE already has trouble getting their booking to make sense without having a ranking system. And if you throw a ranking system in there to adhere to, I don't know if that makes things easier for them or more difficult. What it does do is it makes things more identifiable and makes sense for us as the fans. So I do think they should do something to legitimize their system and make it seem like it's more of a sport, just like AEW does. But I don't know that a flat-out ranking system is the way to do it. I think that you have to weigh who people's opponents are and have different divisions and things like that. So I definitely think that there's a way for WWE to change the way they do it. They need to go back to at least having number one contenders matches and things like that. Tournaments, I don't care, something different than just 50-50 booking for a feud all the way, plus a couple promos, and then somebody ends up going over at the end. I wish that they would do something different than that. So ranking system like AEW, maybe not exactly the right thing, but something similar to that, I think you're definitely on the right track. Fightful reported over the weekend about the return of Mustafa Ali coming on Raw. Definitely something that I don't think a lot of us saw coming. Not sure what they had planned for him. I really don't have anything I can say about this other than that it's nice to see somebody get some television time after being away for so long. But then again, I'm scared to death to see what they're going to do with them, considering what I've seen happen to Drew Gulak and a couple other people who have been behind the scenes for so long and not used. I don't know what's going to happen here. Hopefully he's treated with some respect and we see something good. He gets into a program or something and the issues that were happening before are no longer an issue. Moving on from that, we also know that Becky Lynch is going to be making her return. Now, before I heard from Fightful that Asuka is also going to be making a return as early as Monday. I thought Becky would be coming in to interfere with the women's Raw title match between Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville. Interfere with that match, make sure Belair retains because of the interference, and then stake her claim that she should be the first to have a rematch because she held the belt for as long as she did. That makes a lot of sense for Becky, considering that her character was so attached to that belt. Now that we have Asuka returning too, I'm wondering if maybe the same thing does happen and Becky Lynch interferes with this title match, tries to get her title match for Backlash with Bianca, and then Asuka interrupts that and says she's entitled too. And then that becomes a triple threat at Backlash between Asuka, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair goes over, makes her look a lot stronger, much because the main feud is going to be Asuka and Becky Lynch. So they're going to have some tension in that match, leaving a window for Belair to win. Then we'll move on with the feud between Asuka and Becky Lynch, and Rhea Ripley would be the next heel to challenge Bianca. The other way I could see it happening is that Fightful did say that this is a short-term program presented for Asuka and Becky Lynch. So maybe Becky Lynch gets involved in the Sonya Deville and Bianca Belair match to the point where a disqualification happens, gets in the middle of her whole rant about how she's entitled to have a title shot. And then at that point, Asuka comes out, interrupts her, says she should have a title shot as well. And then they get involved in a very short 2-week program to see who the number one contender is for Backlash. I don't know. I'd rather see the triple threat way because it makes Bianca look better and it's not the same match we saw at WrestleMania, and it leaves a leftover feud afterwards. And then we get the Rhea Ripley feud with Bianca Belair. Either way, great to see Asuka return here. Great to see Becky return. Seems like we're starting to bang on all cylinders here with getting our top talent back, especially in the women's division. But the men are doing well also. Now, like I said, we're going to see if Cody Rhodes is going to open this Raw and close it again like he has the last 3 weeks. And that's something I think that they're burning out a little bit. And I also pose the question, why is the words, there's more than one royal family in wrestling, the way that Cody Rhodes' music starts? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. I've known there's more than one royal family in wrestling for a long time. The Armstrongs, the Hardys, the McMahons, the Von Erichs, the Steiners, the Rocks family, the Usos family, the whole goddamn Samoan family, the Hart family. Do I need to keep going? Why is the Rhodes family the other royal family in wrestling? Give me the answer for that. I'm not a Cody Rhodes hater. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's great for WWE. WWE's better with him in it than they are without him. So I'm all for Cody Rhodes. I just think some of this stuff's a little bit over the top, but whatever. We'll move on from that. Now, the other things we know that we're going to see at Raw are an extremely exciting arm wrestling competition between Bobby Lashley and Omos. I have no idea what the point of this shit is, but whatever. At least it protects Lashley from getting himself killed by Omos again. Hopefully Lashley goes over in this, but he's not going to. I see MVP fucking with this somehow, hitting Lashley with his damn cane or something like that. And they're going to claim that Omos is bigger and stronger than Lashley, and then they're going to have to settle it in the ring someday. But WWE likes to do this stuff and advertise on social media. They got this arm wrestling contest between these two big monsters, and it gets all kinds of hits. So that's really what this is all about. Get something else out there that people are going to click on and look at other than a wrestling match. And it's something that people can see very quickly instead of seeing an entire match. And if you're not interested in a wrestling match, at least you can see two big monsters in a 20-second arm wrestling competition and whatever shenanigans follows. I mentioned earlier the women's championship match with Belair and Sonya Deville. I definitely think Lynch is going to get involved in that. And now that we know that Asuka is going to be around, I think that she may get involved in that as well. But regardless, we're going to have the women's title match and some sort of appearance by Lynch, and most likely some sort of appearance by Asuka, as well as some sort of appearance by Mustafa Ali. Now, as far as the McIntyre Reigns things go, we kind of all saw this coming on this past week's Smackdown airing, because McIntyre told Riddle and Orton that he doesn't like the bloodline. Then we had Reigns getting pissed off about what RK Bro said about him. And then we had the Usos come out during that match and get involved. So I just really think that everything was sort of given to us last week anyway. If I'm spoiling anything, I think you should have seen it coming. Even though McIntyre is involved in this stuff with Zayn, it's clearly not going anywhere. It's clearly just to make McIntyre look like a monster, and that's what he looks like. So we're going to see next week this thing with McIntyre and Reigns develop, so we shouldn't see any hints of that on Raw. Likewise, we won't see interaction between RK Bro and the Usos because the contract signing has been done, and that's taped for next week. So they have a lot of room for a lot of different stuff with not having to put Reigns on the show, not having to put RK Bro on the show, not having to put the Usos on this show. They're going to have room for the women's match and the return of Asuka and things like that. Now, with everybody going over to Europe, I should reiterate that it's not just SmackDown going to Europe. It's basically the entire roster, except for part of the Raw side staying back. They're only doing shows for part of this week and the weekend, and then they're going to be back for Raw. So really anybody could be involved with Raw tomorrow, but I don't see why they would have the Usos or have Roman Reigns involved in this when they've already shot the angle for it. They have a lot more work to do. I believe we're going to see another segment with Ezekiel, most likely against Otis this week. We're also expecting to see Veer Mahan take on Rey Mysterio finally, as long as Rey Mysterio is not in some sort of protocol like he has been recently. And I don't think it does any good to have Veer in any of these squash matches. They need to move things along with him. Everybody knows my opinion of Veer. I can't stand the character. I don't know if anybody does like the character, and I want to see somebody take Veer out and Veer turn into a different character and be something that people can actually get behind and believe, because this stuff is totally out of the 80s and it's outdated, and I don't think anybody's really into it. Last week, Tommaso Ciampa wrestled in one of the dark matches for Raw, so he may be in a match this week for Raw. That would be nice to see him get up onto the main roster scene and get some TV time. Now, I hope to God this TV time does not involve him getting reeled into Edge's group of vampires. We may find out this week that Rhea Ripley is going to join that group. We don't know that, but that's definitely something to look forward to. Edge only did the one promo last week, so we'll probably see some more development between himself, Damian Priest, and AJ Styles. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Finn Balor? Maybe he will help AJ Styles out in this situation that he seems to be direly outnumbered in and totally desperate. They're leaving this babyface to look very weak. AJ definitely needs to get some sort of payback this week, so we should look out for that. I definitely don't want to see any more of this vampire nonsense with the lights flickering out. I can see it right now. AJ finally gets the upper hand on Damian Priest and Edge. He's feeling good, maybe getting helped by somebody. Then all of a sudden the lights flicker, they go out. Everybody's like, what the hell? Rhea Ripley appears with a crazy look on her face with blue lights all over the place. Then the lights completely go dead, and Finn Balor and AJ Styles are nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden we have Rhea Ripley joining Edge there. I mean, honestly, that's not how I see things happening, but I just hope that AJ doesn't get some kind of revenge this week and it end up getting negated by some vampire bullshit. I also think that Rhea joining this faction wouldn't be the end of the world, but what she just needs is to be positioned in a way that makes her look stronger. She needs to be out of the tag teams, and she needs to be challenging for this championship. And that's really, honestly, what Baszler needs to be doing on SmackDown once she gets done losing with Natalya to Naomi and Sasha Banks. Now, speaking of that pairing, we could see some kind of match for Raw this week, considering that we have Naomi going against Baszler next week. Maybe we see Natalya and Sasha on Raw tomorrow. Not really sure. There's a lot of things that could happen. The great thing is that we know that Roman's got an opponent for Backlash. It's a formidable one. We don't have to sit here and shit all over the fact that it's Nakamura, because it's not Nakamura. And we'll see how it works out, man. I think that they can get him back, Drew that is, in position to be a main eventer for the UK pay-per-view. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I'm excited for what's about to happen, and I'm excited for Raw. I will be back with another review tomorrow, but first I'm just going to share one more thing that's happened over the weekend. We did have an update for the WWE 2K22 game last week. It gave us some good features. It added tag titles to the My GM mode. You got to be in normal difficulty at least to have this feature, and it also gives you the ability to book more matches each week. So having a tag title on the women's and the men's side really gives it more purpose, because they want you to book these tag matches in this mode, but without titles there's no freaking point other than boosting the rivalries in it. So having the tag titles in it's great. They also changed some of the characters' likenesses and the way they do moves. They added some music, changed a lot of entrances around, added some arenas. But I think the big thing is the fact that they're listening to people and they're able to change these things about the game that we all think are missing. Like the My GM mode felt like it lacked depth at first, and now it feels a little bit better. Maybe they'll add something else in a couple months and it'll get a little bit better. Who the hell knows? But I do know that right now what they've added to it is maybe a little bit more interested in it, and it's definitely the best WWE game that they've had in quite some time. So I'm definitely happy with it. They got a DLC package coming out tomorrow that's going to include Rikishi, also going to include Omos, which I don't care about, but eventually by June we'll have a lot of people in there. We even have Doudrop, LA Knight, people like that. Just people I thought of off the top of my head. But enough about the game. I'll be back here tomorrow to talk about Raw with you guys. Right now our confirmed Backlash matches are the winner-take-all tag team unification match between the Raw Tag Team Champions RK Bro, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle versus SmackDown Tag Team Champions Jay and Jimmy Uso. We also have the I Quit match for the Women's WWE SmackDown Championship. Ronda Rousey, the challenger, to Charlotte Flair, the champion. Cody Rhodes is taking on Seth Rollins. Edge will be taking on AJ Styles. And Happy Corbin does have a confirmed match with Madcap Moss. Of course, we also have the women's tag title match between Baszler and Natalya versus the champions Sasha and Naomi, as well as our main event, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. It's yet to be revealed of any undercard matches or what they're going to do with the Raw women's title, but we'll probably find out a lot about that tomorrow. Last two pieces of news I got here are real quick ones. We had Triple H come out with a statement this week, more of an interview of sorts, where he sort of clarified things about his departure from NXT due to medical reasons and his opinions on where they're going, how he stated that they're strictly moving in a developmental direction with that, and that he was not removed from power for any reason other than his health, and they're not trying to destroy the product and things like that that we've heard in the IWC. That's just coming from Triple H. Some people call it bullshit, some people don't. I'm just reporting what he said. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I just think that what we see now is an NXT product that is strictly developmental, and it's something that we need to understand when we see people getting called up, see people like LA Knight, like Ciampa, like other guys. They were thriving at the NXT level. They weren't thriving at the main roster level yet. They will someday, but not yet. You know, there's a great interview with Randy Orton out there where he says that he's worked with NXT guys plenty of times, and they do not sell the right way. They do not sell the way that they need to be on the main roster. They're not very safe to work with, he says. They don't sell right. They don't know what they're doing as much. And a lot of this is because we don't realize NXT is in a controlled environment. It's basically the same fans every single week with cues that are telling them who to cheer for, who to not cheer for. It's a much less hectic and stressful situation as being in an arena on Raw or SmackDown in front of 5 to 10,000 fans, depending on the situation, or a premium live event with 30,000 or 60,000 if it's in a stadium. They have to perfect their skills on the microphone for promos. They got to perfect their skills in the ring. A lot of stuff that guys do that we see on television is enhanced by camera angles and producing that does not allow us to see the errors that they make. When you're at live events, you can see when they run somebody in the ring post that their head's a foot and a half away from it. It just looks like they hit it from the camera angle, and you have to be able to sell that and make it look real to be on big shows like Raw and SmackDown. And on NXT, not everybody can do that, and they have camera angles that really mask it down there. So that's why we have guys that thrive on the NXT level, and they don't necessarily have the trust right away when they come up to the main roster. Last bit of news I'm going to have for you guys is Vince McMahon has said that he feels that a lot of his superstars are miscast, and we're going to see a lot of changes coming up pretty soon. That is why we saw Xia Li turn heel in a matter of seconds in a little promo on SmackDown, even though she's only ever been on one televised match. She has been in a lot of live event matches. I've seen her 5 or 6 times, but Vince McMahon feels she's miscast, so he's got her as a heel. I wonder who else he has as miscast. We know that he always felt that Rhea Ripley had more of the look of a heel, and that sort of seems superficial, but that's probably something that he's behind. He feels that Rhea Ripley is more of a heel-looking character, despite her outstanding connection with the fan base, and he turned her. Now, she definitely needed the turn, given the fact that we need heels for Bianca, and she needs to make a title run, and our current champion is a babyface. So all the way around, that was a good decision. We'll see whether Xia Li turns out to be a good decision, and we'll see if these heel turns or face turns or whatever the hell Vince McMahon feels that his superstars are miscasted, and what decision he makes to rectify that, if it makes sense or not. Because who the hell knows what the hell is going to happen. He could feel that Roman Reigns is miscast and change that around. He could feel Seth Rollins is miscast and turn that around. But hopefully we're talking about people on the mid to lower card that are sort of stuck where they are, circling the drain. Maybe he's trying to change them around, change their look, change their presentation, make them more believable, make them something that we can get behind or care about, because ultimately that's what we need from our superstars. We need people that we care about so we can get invested in their feuds and their fights. Otherwise, there's no reason to even be doing all this. We have to have characters that we like and that we hate. That's the basis of how professional wrestling works. We have to have baby faces and heels, and we had to have them be characters that make sense and that are worth a damn for us to care about. So hopefully Vince McMahon's revelation here has us on the right paths. We know changes are coming. Hopefully they're ones that are for the better. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for tonight. Remember to follow me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE, available on all podcast platforms. Beyond the Mat podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with the Raw review as well as week review later in the week. And then we'll get in the DeLorean next weekend and head back to Survivor Series 98 for the Deadly Games tournament and do some retro action. Look at what happened that night. Have a good night, guys.